And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Benched with Bubba, episode 473. Got a special guest returning to the show. Always a fun conversation. You can find his work over at RotoWire.com. He's the bullpen guru over there at this closing charts and much, much more. He's on Twitter at Ryan Rufe. Ryan, how we doing, man?
What's up? Thanks for having me back. Appreciate it. It's always good talking to you, Bubba.
Always good indeed. Always fun chatting it up and seeing where things are going. First off, and we'll talk about your main event team towards the end of the show, but how are things going? We're about 6 weeks into the season, just in general in fantasy. How's this weird new landscape treating you?
Pretty good so far. I had a hot start to the main event. We'll talk about that later, but doing pretty well in most of my leagues. So just got to keep it going. Long season. So
how's the Fab world treating you? Because it's a wild ride. Every league's so different. How are you handling that?
it is so hard in the main event. It's ridiculously hard. I have the Fab Whisper in my league too, so
that doesn't help.
That's not good. He actually outbid me for Alec Thomas this week too by like $20 or something like that. So it's definitely way different. And I was telling Phil recently that past 3 weeks, my top target been outbid on easily. So you get like your like 8th or 9th conditional down the list, and you got to make sure you have like huge conditional set because there's 30 plus pickups in the main event every week. So it's definitely learning a lot, but yeah, had a hot start, but I'm starting to fall back. So kind of getting a little nervous now.
Yeah, no, there's a good point though with the conditional bids. I learned that the hard way, like when I first started doing NFBC, 15 teamers especially compared to 12. But there'll be weeks of like, I got like 4 or 5 in, we're good, and then I still end up with like nobody this week, and now I have a dead roster spot. And it's just like, oh, this is awesome. So
Yeah,
I understand you there. Sometimes you just want to pulse, so you have to just go deep, see what happens,
right,
and roll. So with you 100%.
You're getting guys like Ramon Urias,
Yes.
who's like, I mean, not to besmirch Ramon Urias, but he's not the best option either. So yeah, it's tough.
Definitely a different animal, that's for sure. But let's talk about some injuries that are going to open up some potential fab situations for people this weekend. And we'll start off with Salvy Perez going to the IL for the Kansas City Royals. It obviously opens up more playing time for MJ Melendez, who went deep on Tuesday. His hit tool has been great. He seems like the natural fit to just slide over there as the everyday catcher. But what's your thoughts on this whole Salvy, IL, Melendez, maybe someone else possibility?
Yeah, I think it benefits Melendez a lot, actually. Perez wasn't hitting well prior to the injury. He only had 6 homers, OPS under 700. So, he wasn't really helping a lot, especially compared to what he did last year. But his backup, Cam Gallagher, is also on the IL with a grade 2 hamstring strain. So this is really Melendez's opportunity to show what he can do. They called up Sebastian Rivero from the minors as well, but he's probably going to be a non-factor. He hasn't really hit well in the minors. So yeah, he got a Melendez first big league homer yesterday. A lot of power upside. He led the minors in home runs last year. So only thing with Melendez though, needs to make sure he's sharp defensively. I saw some things that, he made some mental miscues behind the plate in the big leagues, but I don't think he was known as a bad defensive catcher in the minors. So yeah, we'll see what he can do. I have Melendez in the RotoWire Staff League, which is the deep 18-team league. So I'm excited to see what he can do with this opportunity.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting because like I grabbed him in a couple leagues thinking, okay, the hit tool's great. We saw it last year in the minors. And then the fact they were trying to play him all over the diamond, even when they called him up, he wasn't just strictly the backup catcher, meant they wanted to get the bat in the lineups. Now there's no reason not to. So I'm very excited to see where this goes with him. And the underlying metrics are very, very promising. So let's hope for some big things from Melendez that makes it even harder to move him out of the way when Salvy comes back. All right, Jake Odorizzi to the IL for the Houston Astros, and this is a a nasty one. Got carted off the field. He's going to have an MRI. Some people are speculating potential Achilles injury. Who knows? Obviously, we're not all doctors. This is a pretty devastating one for one Jake Odorizzi, who the year didn't start out great, but he started figuring it out over the last couple starts, it appeared. And now this IL stint is not good, obviously, but it does open the door potentially for some more consistent Christian Javier. So what's your thoughts on this Odorizzi injury?
Yeah, it's unfortunate timing for him. He had been pitching well, like you said, 3 wins, 3.13 ERA, 1.17 WHIP. So it's unfortunate timing for him, but it certainly benefits Christian Javier. He was knocked around a bit in his last start, but the upside's always there. So I think the Astros just go back to the 5-man rotation now, and perhaps Javier gets a much longer leash on the rotation now that he then. Potentially serious injury for Odorizzi.
Yeah, I'm with you. Hopefully it's not too serious for Odorizzi, but
I know you're big on Javier in draft season, so you're probably liking this.
Exactly. I was big on Javier, so it's just like I've been waiting for this moment. It looked like we were going to see it a couple weeks ago. Then I got pulled back again. I was like, just let this guy go, please. Let him go. Like Urquidy's not even getting the job done right now, so let Javier pitch. So we'll see if this is what it takes to get him in there full time. This was a bad one. Like we saw Brandon Lowe over the weekend get some off days here and there for the Rays. Now they put him on the IL with an injury that's going to take him out at least 2 to 3 weeks before they even reassess the situation. So it doesn't sound good, to say the least. He struggled quite a bit to start the season here. I guess it opens the door for consistent Vidal Brujan action. The Rays can do all kinds of things because it's what the Rays do. But what's your thoughts on Brandon Lowe, who was struggling to begin with, and now he's going to be out for a little while?
Yeah, that's a bummer because stress reaction in his lower back. Like you said, he won't even resume baseball activities for 3 weeks. So, I mean, it's going to be at least a month till, he's even coming back. So, Vidal Brujan, 44 steals in the minors last year. Only thing is, prior to last night's game, he only had 5 hits and 1 walk in 48 big league plate appearances. So he's not really doing much at the plate, but speed upside is there. They also called up Isaac Paredes, who they got from the Tigers. Paredes doesn't strike out much. He actually had more walks than strikeouts in the minors last year, but he doesn't have much pop, doesn't have much speed. So we'll see how much playing time he gets. I also think this could benefit Taylor Walls. He's not hitting much, but does have 5 steals. So I think they'll just split the time between those 3, and hopefully Brujan can get going because he does have some upside.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I hope Brujan can do it because like you said, we've seen it in the minors. Hasn't completely translated yet in the small sample size. But this at least gives him a run because I was hesitant to add him in any leagues when he first got called up because I didn't see where the playing time was going to fit in with Brujan. And now at least he has a chance at some consistent playing time. I guess the hardest part is I like this Paredes thing you mentioned also because I was kind of intrigued on him when he was with the Tigers. We saw a great pedigree in the farm system there. And then when the trade went over, I was like, well, this is the perfect Rays move. This is what the Rays do. They get these guys, they groom them, sadly in a platoon most of the time, but at least like they got them for a reason. And maybe this is a chance we'll see, and it could be a platoon with Brujan or whatnot. But Paredes does have some nice little pop in that bat and some overall offensive skills. You mentioned the lack of strikeouts. So that's a fun one to monitor. Like we'll get an idea before this next Fab week just how this week goes in general. But with the Rays, it could change when the wind changes. So I wouldn't be too crazy on the bids. That's be my 2 cents on that one.
Yeah, he'll be one of those like 8th or 9th in the waterfall for me, probably.
Yeah, exactly. So, they're worth a gamble just in case something comes into play. But don't go crazy as they say because that could get very, very expensive in the long run of that. The Detroit Tigers have had a couple injuries to deal with here of late. Austin Meadows goes to the 10-day IL. Victor Reyes also went to the IL. Not too worried about the Reyes chatter here, even though he had deep leagues, I guess. But Austin Meadows is having a pretty good season, especially hitting against all those right-handed pitchers in the AL Central. Now he goes to the IL, opens the door for maybe some Willie Castro action. Derek Hill's been playing ever since Purdue got sent down. Daz Cameron is back up. There's a lot of moving pieces in Detroit. Do any of them interest you with Meadows and company on the IL?
Yeah, Castro does for sure. He was hitting second last night versus McClanahan. I think he's hitting second in the lineup today too. He was one of those guys last year I felt like I added and dropped like 5 or 6 times, just because he had that hot season before and then just didn't do anything last year. So I'm excited to see what he can do because he's got a little bit of pop and speed. So if he hits second for the Tigers, that's a really good spot to be in. So I think he'll be probably one of the most added pickups this week, at least in the 15 teamers. But yeah, it's weird for Meadows. It's been a weird season. No home runs, but he's like not striking out at all. Like 99th percentile whiff rate, 92nd percentile strikeout rate. So it's just kind of like he kind of just flipped things around based on what he was doing. And he's just hitting for more contact, not selling out for power like he was in Tampa. So
Yeah, it is weird because that's like I was anti-Meadows when he was in Tampa because platoons, just overall the production was so sketchy, and then he comes over to Detroit and so far so good. But it is weird, like you said, he's productive but no power. So like, where's what gives? And I don't think people will be, oh, it's Comerica Park. Like you can't blame it on Comerica. It's not. That's not what's going on here to completely ramp him down. So we'll have to see how he bounces back. I like the Willie Castro call.
Yeah, Derek Hill too is really good splits against left-handers, and he's got plus speed. So. So Hill's certainly a streamer against lefties. Castro's really strong against lefties too. So, but like you said, the AL Central, with all the righties, especially in the Twins and Guardians, that was probably a big reason they went and acquired Meadows.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's talk Willie Adams. I put on the outline headed to the IL. It's official on Wednesday morning. He is on the IL with a high ankle sprain, which is the worst, obviously, of the ankle sprains you can get because those are the ones that just keep getting reaggravated. They're tough to heal properly without just literally doing nothing, which is not great for some of these ball players. And that just makes it, now you got Luis Urias going from third base to shortstop. You get some more Jace Peterson action. Michael Brosu's in there in platoons. With Willie Adams down, is there anybody in Milwaukee you want to go grab to fill in? Or is there maybe another shortstop I'm sleeping on? Because, Royce Lewis is gone now, so that's fun. What are you thinking with this Willie Adams news?
Well, Keston Hiura got called up today. He's in the lineup.
So
he got recalled for additional infield depth there. Figure Brassell will probably mix in versus left-handers. Maybe Peterson sits versus lefties. But, Hiura, tantalizing upside. Always rakes at AAA. I think he was hitting well there before his call up. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do. I know he's not very strong defensively, but I think they have him at first today. So, yeah, maybe a little power speed upside, but playing time, we'll see how much playing time he gets. If he plays every day this week, I could see him being a big pickup this weekend.
The thing with here, and that's why I will be interested to see how it goes this whole week. But he seemed like even before he got demoted, he's faced only lefties and he sat. So we'll see. And the point you made is he's always crushed AAA. It's just one of it's what keeps giving people hope, and I hope it'll change. So we'll see how that translates for him. But that could be a decent flyer for sure because that power it will play if he can play. So I'm with you on that one. Tyler Mcgill, this was a gunshot to many people because he was pitching great, had a couple hiccups there, and now he's on the IL due to right biceps inflammation. No structural damage, thank goodness. But he's going to be down for a little while here. Definitely going to be down for a little while. So you're not dropping Tyler Mcgill, obviously, but it is a buzzkill to the system. And we look at the Mets rotation, they've got the likes of looks like Trevor Williams is going to fill in, so not the most warm and fuzzy acquisition out there. So what are you doing if you're a Tyler Mcgill guy?
Yeah, I would hold him, for the upside. It's weird timing, with the ILs, on the heels of his first big blow up of the year after he allowed 8 earned runs in an inning of third at Washington. I checked his velocity in that start. It wasn't down or anything. So I don't know. We'll see how long he's out. But Trevor Williams stepped in, pitched 4 scoreless innings yesterday afternoon against the Cardinals. I figure they'll probably just roll with him as kind of the opener and do bullpen games until, Mcgill is ready. But, I don't know. Is Jacob DeGrom ready yet? Who knows?
Yeah, that's one where they just came a couple days ago. He took a new MRI. Images look promising, but he's still kind of not doing much. So I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
Mets gonna Mets, baby. Mets gonna Mets.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk Jesus Lizardo. Took spring training by fire, started out the season pretty strong, but now he as well hits the injured list, which is a shame here with a forearm strain, which not always what you want to hear when it comes to injuries, because that usually leads to something else. But let's stay optimistic for a little bit here. We haven't seen the full results there. And Cody Petit, though, got the call up. And this is a guy that has shown some promise in the minor leagues from time to time. Like, not like top prospect, but definitely some good stuff. Decent ratios. Not the most strikeouts, though. Is Petit the guy that you look to add this week, or are you just kind of looking elsewhere to fill in for Lizardo?
I mean, we'll see if he starts to, pitch 5 innings per start, then yeah, I'm interested. But he's yet to go over that. He had been pitching in bulk relief until he kind of filled in for Lizardo. But Petit's been really good. 0.43 ERA, 0.86 WHIP. Like, that's in 21 innings.
Good.
That's pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
I know everyone's calling for Max Meyer to get called up. Nothing left to really prove in the minors. But Meyer gave up 3 home runs in his last minor league start at AAA. Meyer has gone 5 innings or more in 6 of his starts in AAA. So I don't know. I would imagine we see him soon. But I think for now it's Petit for a while.
I know we usually stick to NFBC conversation for the most part, so Meyer won't be available in pretty much any of our leagues until he makes an appearance. But say you're in a Yahoo or a Fantrax or an ESPN that's got him available on the waiver wire, and obviously your league depth will come into play there. Would he be a guy you'd be looking to stash right now if you can, or is it just like you'd rather focus on the now type situation?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'd be looking to stash him. Yeah, he's got the strikeout upside. 43 to 10K to walk and 36 and a third innings in the minors. So he's definitely got the upside. He will likely, if he does come up and start, I would think he would pitch long enough to be in line for a win. Since he's gone 5+ innings in most of his AAA starts. So yeah, it's definitely somebody I would be stashing in those leagues.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because sometimes we forget about the regular players out there, the more common players out there, that this is actually a guy you can go grab. So it makes things much more intriguing if you can stash and hold in those situations. Last one we'll discuss here, Manny Margot hits the IL, which is an absolute shame because he was actually starting to crush baseballs. He was playing against righties and lefties, hitting the top of the order, power, speed, doing everything we've wanted from Manny Margot for years. Now he hits the IL. It'll turn into a likely platoon situation with Brett Phillips, Harold Ramirez, maybe others in Tampa. What are you doing with Manny Margot, though? Because we finally saw what we wanted to see, but now he's back to the IL.
Yeah, it sucks. I have him in a few spots. I was really excited about his start. So I'm going to hold just because it looks like he was in the midst of a career season. He's really been the Rays' best hitter outside of Wander Franco. So, yeah, I'd like to hold on to Margot, especially because he plays outfield. Most of the leagues I'm playing in, start 5 outfielders. So, yeah, that's just like Odorizzi. It's just bad timing, for Margot. So hopefully he's back soon.
Yeah, it definitely sucks. So I guess we'll have to see how this one goes going forward, and hopefully it is back soon, as you said, because that was a punch to the gut for sure. Let's talk some closers. And then we do have a listener question in the chat. We'll bring that up towards the end of the show. But let's talk some closers here. And I didn't write down, like, last time I had you on was before the season. We went team by team. It was an awesome episode. And so if there's some I didn't put here, because we could obviously talk almost every team again, please bring them up at the end. But we'll start with the Red Sox, where things have been a roller coaster ride. Hansel Robles got the most recent save, but like Matt Strom's looked good. There's options there in Boston, but nothing has like settled in to be the guy. So if you're approaching them right now, who would you like to roster? And then if you don't get the main guy, who are you speculating on?
Yeah, I actually cover the Boston bullpen in depth in my latest Closer Encounters article for RotoWire that should be out later today. It's not published yet. So But I go deep on this bullpen, and also Philadelphia is just two struggling pens that just wanted to look a little bit deeper into. So Robles is the committee leader right now. He leads Boston with 2 saves, including their most recent save on Monday. It's funny with Robles, his surface stats don't look bad, but prior to Monday, he had allowed an earned run in 4 of 5 appearances. His ground ball rate is down 5% from last year. K rate's only 17.2%. And he's always had a 10+% walk rate. So he might be the favorite for saves right now, but he's definitely not the best reliever in this bullpen. I'd still be rostering Robles if I need saves, but I'm definitely, willing to cut bait at some point just because, he's not pitching as well as his stats say he's pitching. So Matt Barnes is another one who, was expected to have the job coming into the season, but, he had some mechanical issues in spring. His velo was down in spring. I had been monitoring his velocity because I actually have him in one of my 15-team leagues where I'm hurting for saves. I've been holding him on my bench, but I'm probably going to cut bait this weekend. It's probably long overdue. His velo is actually back in line with his average from last season. He was at 95.5 miles per hour in 2 of his last 3 appearances. But last night, he came into the Astros game, a low leverage situation, was sitting 94.3 again. So he's performed terribly. He's given up at least an earned run in half of his appearances. And he has very few clean outings where he just, it's a 1-2-3 inning. So I'm going to cut bait on Barnes because I think the 2 best options for saves right now in Boston are John Schreiber and Matt Strahm. Schreiber is a former Tigers reliever that has earned a high leverage role really quickly. He earned a 2-inning save against Atlanta a week ago. Hasn't been scored upon through 7 1/3 innings, hasn't walked a batter. Because of that, he leads the Boston bullpen with a 25.9% K minus WAP percentage. So, it's a nice start to the season. He doesn't throw super hard. He only throws 93.5 miles an hour, but he has yet to allow a hit on his fastball this season. So he's definitely somebody that I think could get more opportunities just based on how he's pitching. I mean, everyone else is pretty much struggling. So keep an eye on Schreiber and also Matt Strahm. He's a lefty, could get save chances versus lefty heavy parts of the lineup. 29% K rate, 4% walk rate, mid 40s ground ball rate. He's definitely performed the best thus far out of the Boston relievers. So I'm excited about Strahm and Schreiber. Robles I still have as the kind of leader of the committee, but I think Schreiber and Strahm should mix in more, for saves just based on the way they're pitching. And, Boston, they've started the season poorly. They have high expectations. I would imagine Alex Cora will do anything to try to turn the ship around. So one thing I've considered actually, and let me know your thoughts on this, Bubba. What if Chris Sale comes back as a reliever?
It's definitely an option. I've said that about, it's kind of in the same vein. Last year, I kept saying the A's should just have AJ Puck come back as their closer. Literally,
Right.
These guys that are having arm issues that you have to ramp up and you have to hope they stay healthy, but they could probably give you 1 or 2 really awesome innings. How could Chris Sale not be like a Josh Hader type? They almost look identical if you think about the way they wing it from the side. Hader's obviously, I think, better at this point in time. But I'm with you. I think that's an option as if things go this way. I guess the biggest deterrent for Boston is their rotation's got some hiccups in it too. So they're probably thinking I got a bunch of leaks in the dam. How do I fix this with one guy? That's probably tough. But I think it's a great option because right now, as you've mentioned with their bullpen, there's nothing that's set in stone that's working right now. So they got to figure it out. And Chris Sale, he's not going to be stretched out to be an actual starter for a while. It's going to
That's
be
what I'm
time.
thinking.
So
Like
it's gonna be
pitching in
tough.
shorter stints, like could accelerate his return, right?
Yeah, like
You know,
and he could start as the closer, like you're saying, and then come if they're in the contention, come August, you could stretch him out closing and be back in the rotation. So it's an option for sure.
yeah, I'm not even sure really even as a closer, just maybe even a long man or
Like a
eat up some
fireman.
innings at
Yeah.
least to eat up some of that work. But another option would be if Sale returns, maybe Whitlock steps
Yeah.
back into that versatile relief role that could you know lead to him closing out some games. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, Whitlock's such a stud. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what they want to do with him, but I imagine at some point, innings may be something they want to monitor. So maybe he goes back to the bullpen at some point this year.
I'm 100% on board with you on that on multiple parts. He is a stud. Like I love Whitlock, and it's tough though in the fantasy. Like I've rostered him, like, but it's just so tough because they take such close care of him. So to be super fantasy relevant from a starter's tricky, where he probably would benefit us better as a closer or as back end of an opener. But it seems like they don't know what they want to do with him. It's like, hey, we want you to start, but we don't want you to go deep. So it's a tough situation. So he could be the perfect guy in the back end of that pen to give you like an inning or two and just rock and roll. So I like that as well. Like I guess it's good that they have options. That's something that the Red Sox have are options. It's just how good are these options is the tricky part. And back to your Barnes comments earlier, I'm with you. I was big on him in the draft season as like a value, like third reliever option. He's been cut on all my teams since then, and it's annoying because I think I could still see him finishing the season with the most Red Sox saves, and it's going to annoy me. But
yeah,
that's where we're at.
Yeah, I think the velo is big for him, right? Like he had a couple appearances recently where his velo was back in line, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll hold on to him some more. But he's pitching the middle innings when they're down 13-4 or something like that. It's just I don't think he's going to be seeing saves anytime soon. So I probably should have cut him a long time ago, like you did.
Yeah, it's tough. And I'll be honest though, mine were in 12 teams, which made it a lot easier. 15
tough.
Yeah,
much easier.
Tough.
Yeah,
15.
It is tough in 15s. Yeah,
that's why I want to clarify that because like in 15, he still has a pulse and like a slight % chance of figuring it out. Where in 12, it's like, you know what, I just got to move on. It's got to go. So
yeah, in that league, I'm hurting for saves. I'm towards like the bottom for saves. So that's why I've held this long. But I think even Schreiber or Strom, like picking either one of those guys up. I prefer both to Barnes right now. So
yeah, and that's an option for people that are rostering these guys that you're stuck on is, well, flip them for another prospective saves guy and see how that one rolls for a bit and see if at least the ratios and the strikeouts are there to make things a little better. Let's head to Detroit where it's Gregory Soto. He got another save, but then he's gets a hold the couple outings before. He's been all over the board when it comes to saves. And he's just not striking out a ton of guys like you would hope. We saw Fulmer last year do some stuff. Will Vest has looked great of late. He even picked up a save last week. What are you doing with the Detroit situation?
Yeah, Vest came in during one of Soto's recent save opportunities, kind of cleaned up his mess that he made. Soto had hit 2 batters and walked another to load the bases, and Vest got out of it. So, I like Vest because Soto has just been kind of overworked recently. He worked 3 out of 4 games for the Tigers recently. Fulmer hasn't pitched well in May. He's given up 5 earned runs, 5 walks during the month, and 5 innings. So he was somebody I was rostering in the main event for a little bit, but I've moved on for the roster space. But Vest is he's encouraging. He's got a 23 K to walk, 0.46 whip through 15 in the 3rd innings. That'll play. So I would not be surprised to see him get some more opportunities. Chafin's off to a nice start too. He's somebody who started the season on the IL for the Tigers. Alex Lang's off to a nice start too. Joe Jimenez closed games in the past. So they really do have a lot of options they could turn to. But it's funny, Soto and Fulmer, the 2 guys that are relying on most have, pitched poorly. So I would not be surprised to see them shift this to Vest or, even Chafin, who closed out some games last year for the Cubs.
Yeah, no, that's what surprises me about this because I liked Soto as similar to Barnes, like a late round. Let's take a flyer guy. But I haven't dropped him yet, but I haven't started him every week like most closers. So it's one of those, like, I'm not confident in the situation. with him, but do have a nice slew of talent in that bullpen. So eventually we may see a changing of the guard. I feel like we've done this dance with Soto for almost 2 years now. Like the same thing happened last year. Then he kind of struggled. They demoted him, and then he started getting back in the role. So he's a tough one to kind of give up on because they don't give up on him, which makes it really tricky. But this year they have options, so we'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah, he was one of it was tough in draft season because he was one of the first iffy closers that had security because AJ Hinch said he's my guy.
Yep.
Like right after the season he said that. So it was you had to target him because there was nobody, nobody had a job closing.
Exactly.
Gig.
So that is probably one reason why I moved him up my board weirdly enough. So it makes it very tricky. Yeah. I know we talked about this team in general earlier before the season started in Seattle because there are so many options, and they've pretty much showed their hand that there's so many options so far this year. But Paul Sewell come back from the IL. He's been pretty darn good. He has had a hiccup here or there, but still he's been pretty darn good. Multiple innings at times, getting you saves, wins. A jack of all trades. You have Andres Munoz, who's looked good. Steckenrider's got a save. You still have a Castillo back there who's had his moments. There's been a little piece of the pie for everybody, it feels like. How are you assessing the Seattle situation? Because I just finally threw my hands up and I said, you know what? I'm just grabbing Sewell where I can and get the ratios, the strikeouts, and whatever else works. But maybe there's a smarter move. What do you got?
No, I think you're right. Sewell and Munoz will provide at least those other stats that you're looking for, like the strikeouts, some wins, just because they're pitching in high leverage. Munoz is really one I'm wondering if he'll eventually, take the job at some point this year and run with it. He currently leads all relievers that have 10 or more innings with 25.2 swinging strike rate. He's got a 20 to 5K to walk in just 10 and a third innings. So he signed that extension with Seattle this offseason to buy out his arbitration years, and I think that gives him a much greater chance of taking over a role at some point. Just because there's no, they're not trying to keep his costs down by not giving him save opportunities. So the fact that they bought out those years, he's with them long term now. I think increases his chances. But Sewell's been really good. 0.43 whip through 11 and 2/3 innings. I know he was in the headlines recently when he visited the Mets, his former team. But he's performing. He's performing well. Give you the strikeouts. Giving up a couple homers, but he's certainly their highest leverage reliever. I am not on Steckenrider or Castillo this year. Steckenrider has a 6.7% K-walk percentage. Gave up 4 hits and 2 earned runs in his last appearance. Diego Castillo, he earned his second save of the season in his most recent appearance, but he's allowed 9 earned runs over his 3 appearances before that. And his K-walk percentage is only 8.6%. Not striking out as many batters this season, as he has in the past. So those are 2 guys I'm just, when you have a bullpen like this where, 4 or 5 guys are in the mix, those guys that aren't giving you the strikeouts or, regular wins or, in those scenarios where, it's high leverage, tie game, they can, come out with a win. I'm just not interested in those guys. So unless they start turning things around or Castillo starts striking more guys out, I'm just going to avoid them. And don't forget about Ken Giles. He was cleared for a throwing program in early May, but he was transferred to the 60-day IL recently to make room for George Kirby. I think in mid-June at the earliest. I wouldn't be surprised to see him a little bit later than that, dealing with that finger issue. But, he's somebody that could be in this mix when he gets back.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense as well. So, we'll stick Sewell for now, but I think it'll be a roller coaster like usual in Seattle. Let's head to Toronto, where this is an interesting one because at least there's some news coming out on Jordan Romano. At first, it was like, oh, he's being evaluated by the medical staff, and we saw his velocity was down. So, panic mode set in at least. And literally while you were talking, I just looked up again to make sure nothing's changed. And as of last night's game, he's day-to-day with a non-COVID illness that's hitting him pretty bad, but he was good enough to be at the facility receiving fluids and whatnot from the team doctors. So it may not be that contagious, is my guess, because why would you bring him near the team if it's that kind of deal? So I don't know what it is. We don't know what it is, but it's nothing structural. It sounds like it's literally he's got an illness. Who knows if it takes a week to 2 weeks? What's it going to do to his like body and everything? Who knows? But the question now, for the time being, is it just go grab Simber and roll with it because he got another save last night, or is there something else you want to do with the Toronto situation until we get more Romano news?
Yeah, I'm a little scared about this. Romano is my most rostered closer, so I'm
I have a
hoping he's
lot
okay.
too. I'm with you. That was a buzzkill. He's been crushing it for us.
Yeah. Scott Mitchell of TSN tweeted last night that he's in rough shape.
Yeah.
So that's a little scary. But yeah, Simber, 2 straight saves for Toronto. Past 2 nights. Tim Maiza recently went on the IL with an inflamed left forearm. He's getting a second opinion, so that's a little scary too. So Simber and Yimi Garcia are kind of the 2 guys I'm looking at right now. Simber's only pitched 19 pitches between the last 2 days, so I'm wondering if he could possibly pitch tonight in a third straight. If there's another save opportunity, just because he hasn't really thrown that many pitches. But if not, I would imagine Yimi Garcia probably gets the opportunity. Simber gets the night off. Trevor Richards, David Phelps, they're veterans who could probably step in for saves if needed. But Simber's clearly the favorite just because he's gotten the last 2 saves, and Yimi Garcia just based on his experience last year with Miami as the backup. Yeah.
I guess we'll see how it goes. It's just like you said. Let's just hope everything's fine with Mr. Romano. But it's weird. Yes. It's a weird one. It's a very weird one that they're like kind of they're telling us it's not COVID, but they're not telling us anything else. So it's like
I'm no doctor. We need to call the roto doctor and see what you need fluids for if it's a non-COVID illness.
And it's not contagious
enough or something. Like I have no idea.
And it's not contagious enough so you can bring them by the team. So it's a weird deal. Weird deal for sure.
Maybe dehydration or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's got maybe something with his digestive system. I don't know. It's just draining us down.
Yeah.
Arizona Diamondbacks. This is a fun one. Mark Melanson last week, 2 saves, 2 blown saves that were ugly. No strikeouts in all 4 appearances. He's been getting worse and worse. It seems like. You got Ian Kennedy, who's not the structure of hope either. He might be better than Melanson right now, but not the best thing in the world. Toby last night mentioned Joe Mantiply. I see you have him on your list as well. What are you doing in Arizona?
Yeah, this is tough just because Melanson's just been so bad. He had 3 losses and a blown save over a week stretch. But when you look at his saves, he's converted 7 of his 8 opportunities. So Torey Lovullo came out and said he's still the closer. He kind of reviewed his body of work thus far this year. Most of his bad outings have been in non-save situations, apparently. So I don't know. That's having a vote of confidence from the manager, is nice. But when you have a ERA over 8 and a WHIP over 2, you're not really excited to put him in your lineup. So, Kennedy, saved 26 games last year, 30 in 2019 with the Royals. Can certainly do the job. Gave up an earned run in his last appearance. A couple of hits, took the loss, but he's clearly the next guy if Melanson continues to falter. Mantiply is a good alternative if we're talking like really, really deep leagues, those 15 teamers or plus, just as a spec option, just because Arizona's been a lot better this year than expectations. Mantiply has an ERA and WHIP both under 1. Doesn't strike too many guys out, but he's kept his walk rate down this year. He had 17 walks and 39 2/3 last year, but only 1 walk in 13 2/3 this year. So he's got 2 saves. So is kind of a bullpen I've avoided for saves just because they haven't been a winning team in recent years. It's been a nice start, but I think they fell back under 500 recently. So I'm just kind of avoiding. I don't think I have any Melanson or Kennedy or Mantiply, but I would consider Mantiply as a really deep option. I think that was a good call by Toby.
Yeah, what's interesting with them is they're like, I guess the best way I can say it is they're actually like pretty they're competitive, like you said. So you're gonna get some save chances, but it's like how good are these save chances going to be, if that makes sense, or how often? Like, are they going to hit us the skids where it just gets nasty for a while type thing, and they don't win ball games like in the past? Because remember, it was it was I'm picturing him right now who was closing for them last year, Soria. Soria was closing for them, and he went like a stretch of 20, 30 days without even a save chance. It felt like it was wild.
Then he had like 6 in July or something. Like, and then they traded him right away. They capitalized on that like real quick.
Yeah, so I'm not saying like the Dbacks are going to do that, but that's very much in the cards as well. So
they've lost 6 of their last 7. They had a nice stretch of wins where they won 7 of 8 games, but then they've lost 6 of their last 7. Yeah. And that's what happens when you play,
the
Dodgers and the Cubs. So
things will get changing for you. And speaking of the Cubs, David Robertson, COVID IL, and he's been there for a while, so he must have some pretty serious symptoms going on with him, because some of these guys go on for like a day or two and it seems like they're back. He's been there for a bit, and in the meantime, Rowan Wick has picked up 3 saves. This kind of bums me out for the fact that I drafted Rowan Wick late in draft season after the Hoyer news, and then all of a sudden Wick's not good enough to be the closer, and they got Robertson and all this yada yada yada. So now I don't have any Rowan Wick saves. So is Wick worth grabbing for now, just until Robertson comes back? Do we think this is a thing that might be more fluid going forward? How would you assess the Cubs situation?
Yeah, I was looking for some news on Robertson because I have him in one league that I have a very shallow bench. This is a non-NFBC league. I only have 3 people on my bench, and my IL spots are full. So I was like, should I hold on to him? And the Cubs beat reporter for The Athletic, I can't remember his name, but he posted recently it's saying that David Ross said Robertson has stayed sharp and feels good, and it should be hopefully sooner rather than later. So I don't know. I mean, it sounds like, he could step back into the role as soon as he's back, but he has been out for a while, and Wick's been good in his absence. But problem is, this was David Ross used a committee last year after they traded Kimbrel. I know he's gone to Wick for the team's last 3 saves, but there's other options too. Michael Givens has a 34.5 percent K rate. His home run rate's a little up, and his walk rate's over 10%. But he can strike people out, so he could be an option. An option. Did save games with Cincinnati last year, so. And then Scott Efros has been really sharp this year. 17-1 K to walk in 15 innings with great ratios. He's somebody I'd monitor. If this absence for Robertson kind of extends on any longer, because he's been really good. Short term, it looks like Wick, but there are other guys who could step in if Wick starts to struggle, and he's not been the most reliable pitcher in the past, and he's also dealt with some injuries in the past. So we'll see.
Yeah, and Robertson's dealt with plenty of his own injuries too. So it's one of he could come back, and we could be doing this dance all over again on if it's Wick, if it's Givens. I think Givens might get a shot. We saw what he did with Cincinnati last year and a few others. So I think there's some definitely life behind that one as well.
I'm looking at Wick's game log right now. 13 appearances and only 1 clean outing. He has a 139 whip. So that's where it kind of gets a little tricky for me, is you don't want guys on base when you're trying to save games. So, and I'm looking at his last 3 saves, 2-inning save. He allowed 2 hits. And then the second one, he allowed 2 hits and a run and a walk. And then the last save, he allowed a hit as well. So he's definitely hittable. Walk rate isn't perfect, but he's gotten the last 3 saves. So not somebody I'm going to break the bank for just because of that whip.
Perfect. That was the big question right there. Let's talk Cincinnati Reds, which is always a fun conversation to have when it comes to saves, because they don't win a lot of games. They've been winning lately. Let's be honest. They've been winning lately. But like yesterday, Art Warren gets the win in one of the doubleheader games, and Alexis Diaz saves that same game. There's just a ton of moving parts in Cincinnati. Who's the man at roster, and is anyone actually worth rostering, I guess is the real question.
Probably not. Art Warren got the win, but he blew the save last night.
Gotcha.
He came on in the 9th with a 2-run lead, gave up a 2-run homer to Owen Miller. And then the Reds scored in the top of the 10th. Alexis Diaz came on, Edwin Diaz's younger brother. They both got saves last night, which was really cool. And Diaz really he made it interesting. I was watching that game because I'm a Cleveland fan. Struck out the first two batters, and then walked to load the bases because they had the runner on second to start the inning. So loaded the bases for Jose Ramirez. So imagine you're like shitting your pants, like you're a rookie up there looking at Jose Ramirez, probably best hitter in the AL, but he struck him out. So
good on him.
Got his first career save. Diaz he's gotten some work. He's second on in the Cincinnati bullpen in innings with 17 in the third. Throws the hardest out of all of them. He's got a 30% K rate. The one thing though, he's got a 13% walk rate, and that's I'm always looking at the walk rate when it comes to like spec closers because if you're over 10%, that's where it gets a little dicey for me. So I would not be probably rostering either of these guys. I think Diaz will probably go for a lot. I certainly think he's in the committee now with Art Warren and maybe Santillan and maybe Hunter Strickland, Lucas Sims when he comes back, but he's on the IL. So I don't know. They were showing clips of David Bell in the dugout, when Diaz was on the mound, and you could just see him just feel like, here we go again. It's just every save op. It's like, it's always there's always fun to be had. So
yeah, it's been messy for Cincinnati. There's no sugarcoating that at all. It's been very, very messy in that bullpen. Last one I have down for us here is the Miami Marlins. Cole Sulser has kind of gotten a little bit of the role of late. Dylan Floro's back from the IL. We saw him, Mattingly likes Floro, so you feel like he might get a shot at some point in time. Bender had his shot. Doesn't feel like he ran with it very well. Are you going to go Sulser if you're bidding on stuff this week, or are you going to speculate on Floro? How would you approach the Miami situation?
I'm probably avoiding this pen for now, just because I don't know. Excuse me. I still think Bender, even though he came on in the fifth inning yesterday, it was during kind of a big spot with a runner on and a 1-run lead. So he got the out, got out of the fifth inning, stayed on for the sixth to face the 8-9-1 hitters. And then he induced a ground out and then allowed a single to Victor Robles, picked him off at first base, and then allowed another single before he was pulled. So I don't know. Bender's, I don't know. I still think he's kind of in the mix, but Sulser is my favorite for saves right now because he pitched the ninth last night with a 4-run lead against the Nationals. Wasn't a save opportunity, but certainly kind of fell that way. And with Dylan Floro, Fred Zinke made a good point last night on the RotoWire podcast with Jeff Erickson. He hasn't struck out a batter yet since he's been back. So it's a little concerning. He's never been like a high strikeout guy, but you definitely want that K upside. So Sulser for now, could be fluid. Bender could be back in the late inning mix at some point, but Don Mattingly's got to figure this out. Miami's 17-19. They're tied for second in the NL East. They are 6 games back of the Mets, but they're in second in the tough division. So got to do something. Maybe the answer is Max Meyer. Maybe he pitches out of the bullpen later this season.
Could be for sure.
He'd be a good, pretty dominant, closer option for them if they chose to go that route. But this is one I'm just not super confident in. But out of anyone, I'm looking at Sulser right now.
They definitely need to do something because, like you said, they're in second place. They were in the playoffs a couple years ago. They got a great starting rotation. Like, don't waste this. Don't waste it on a bad bullpen. When everyone thought at one point Kenley Jansen was going to go there, and that didn't happen. And go trade for Kimbrel, that didn't happen. So, what could have been a couple quick hitters while we were talking that I just wanted to get your thoughts on because they were big fab spec ads this past week. Felix Bautista for Baltimore, people like quite a bit, and then in Oakland. You had Danny Jimenez, who looks like he did take over for Lou Trevino. But are those two guys worth going and getting right now? Or like I'm more on Team Jimenez, and I looked at your chart. You are too. But Bautista, people are raving over Bautista, but Jorge Lopez is still there.
Yeah, remember it's the Orioles too. Like you can't get too excited just because they're not very good.
True.
Bautista can throw 101.5 mile-an-hour pitches all day, but you're still on the Orioles. You're probably not going to see many save opportunities, and if you are, you're probably splitting them with Jorge Lopez, who's been really good this year. So I do like Danny Jimenez a lot better. I have put Jimenez about when Trevino was healthy and Jimenez got a couple saves ago. I kind of put him as the leader. Oakland. I'm actually going to drop Trevino this week in the main event just because I want to have that flexibility on the rosters. So I do have Jimenez on that team too, but they're certainly worth a pickup if you're like desperate for saves, but I'm just tempering expectations just because of the teams. They're not great teams. So, but Jimenez has been pretty good. So
pretty good. Yep, pretty good. That's for sure. I wrote this down at the beginning, and obviously we talked about a few other guys, but it stood out to me right out the gate. Matt Strahm versus Will Vest. If you had to pick one up this weekend, who are you picking up?
Probably Vest. Just because Strahm, he's the lefty. I can't remember how many lefties they have in their pen, but let me just look at it. If you go to rotowire.com/baseball/closers, you can actually filter. If you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you can see you can filter by the different teams. They have Diekman, Austin Davis as lefties too. So maybe he gets more save opportunities and I can give him credit for. But I would probably lean Vest just because Fulmer and Soto have been so shaky as of late, and they just they need to kind of turn things around there. There works. Added Meadows, Javi Baez, Eduardo Rodriguez this year, probably weren't favorites for the division, but I'm sure they expected to be a lot better than they have been. So at this point, you don't want your bullpen to be blowing games for you. So I think back to Toronto last year, they missed the playoffs by one game. If they had gone to Jordan Romano like earlier than they did, they probably would have made the playoffs. But instead they toyed around with DeLeese and a couple other guys. So every game counts. I got that extra playoff spot this year. So I don't know. Yeah, Detroit's gonna have to climb out of that 13-24 record. But I could see Vest stepping in there for him since he's been so dominant.
I like it. I like it quite a bit. Before we get to the listener question in the video here, first main event, you've been documenting it off and on over there at rotowire.com. You talked about it as a good start, kind of dwindling a bit here, but it is only May 18th. We still have a long ways to go, about 3.5 to 4.5, about 4 months of baseball still to rock and roll with. So how are things going? Where's the mind at? How do we think we're going to fix what's going on?
Yeah, I started out really, really hot. I was first in the league for 3-4 weeks in a row. I was hovering in the overall between like 15th place and 25th place for those 3-4 weeks, but I've fallen back the past 2 weeks. And Nate Eovaldi really kind of made me fall back in the overall standings last night after his blow up start against Houston. So currently I'm third in my league and 141st overall. I really dropped significantly after that Eovaldi start because my pitching has been like the strength of my team. But I'm still pretty optimistic. I'm putting in the work. Next week, I'll actually have like the first quarter update for just how things have gone for the first seven weeks, what I've learned, who I've picked up, some of my most difficult decisions. I'm just going to document that, and it'll be free on RotoWire, so everyone will be able to read it. But so far so good. It's a tough league. It's a long season, so I'm trying not to be too discouraged by dipping significantly in the standings, just because when it comes to these leagues, you just put in the work. You outwork people. It'll help. It'll go a long way towards your success. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm really spending a lot of time on Fab. I've been pretty unsuccessful the past 3 weeks, like I was talking about earlier. Just some of my top targets have gone for much higher than I've been on. But I'm learning a lot, and it's a really fun experience. So I'm hoping get to play again next year, no matter what happens. I did join a main event qualifier that I'm currently in first place on. So
Nice.
Hope to be back, and no matter what happens this year. And it's just fun to document it because it keeps you accountable. You're forced to stay on top of things, and that's what I wanted to do for myself. I wanted to be able to like make sure I learn some things as I'm documenting this process, and hopefully help some others learn some things too.
No, it's great, and that's kind of like you're doing it written form. It's why we talk about our. I know Jeff always makes the joke on his like people don't care about listening about our teams. I'm like, well, I talk about it because it keeps me honest. Like it keeps me focused on what's going on. Like this is why I added so and so. Maybe this was the wrong move. This is like this and that. And it's such a long season. And one of the really good things you mentioned right there was outworking the competition, because it's such a long grinding season. People get busy with stuff. Things happen. If you can just put that extra like move in here and there, you never know where it's going to be. And that could be the difference from a lot of money to no money. And it sounds silly, but it could be something as simple as that when you look at it. So I'm looking forward to seeing where things keep going for you along that process.
Yeah. One thing, like you talk about on Bubba and the Bat Flip with Toby, like when you guys talk about your drops like that's like, I'm really interested in that. Cause I want to see like, I'm wondering who is dropping like these guys that I'm considering dropping, right?
Yep.
Like I have this list. I forget who, I think it might've been Phil, who said like, when you're doing your fab planning, you kind of separate things into easy drops, maybe drops, and that's really been helping me, figure out who to drop moving forward. So I don't know. I really, when people talk about who they're dropping, that really kind of intrigues me because, it's kind of a little bit of validation, right? Like if you drop some guy a little early and, Phil or Toby or whoever's, dropping these guys too, like you're like, feel much more comfortable with that decision. Right.
I'm with you. I'm with you. That's always been my tough thing I talk about is I was always holding guys too long or this or that and the other. And I've been trying to be less clingy this year. And some of it's like going to be tough and some not. But again, I play a lot more 12s and 15s. So you can do that a little more often, which suits my style more. But it is nice to hear when the robot does something. That's for sure. That makes it a lot better. The question from our chat here from Star Platinum is Nick Martinez going to lose his starting job as the NFBC page he is scheduled to pitch on Friday. As of now, Nick Martinez is in the rotation. I have not seen anything to say otherwise. He has struggled a lot. Not going to sugarcoat that. He first start of the year was really, really good. But as of now, you look at roster resource, he's not even on. They have Blake Snell as the fifth starter. So maybe he does. That's interesting. Let me go to RotoWire.
RotoWire 2 days ago, moving to the bullpen, replaced by Blake Snell. Kevin Acee of the San Diego Union Tribune reports. So
there you go.
Probably be that mop up. He'll probably follow Snell because I imagine Snell won't like go long his first couple starts back. So
it'll be what they did on Tuesday where they had Gore come in after Clevenger. Even though Clevenger still went 5, Gore went 3.
Yeah, exactly.
So I could see that, which is annoying because I'll just ask you because literally when I saw that last night, at first I thought, okay, Clev goes 2 or 3, then Gore, cool. Then I saw how it actually played out, which as a person that rosters Gore, now I don't know what to do in a 12-team league because if he's just going to be that 3-inning reliever like that, that's not going to be worth my roster spot. This is very annoying. Ryan, what would you do in that scenario?
I'm in the same scenario as you, so
yeah, because I was all aboard that train. Yeah, so
it
was tough.
It's tough because I mean the talent's there. He was really impressive in his starts, but you have to look at the back end of the Padres rotation as Snell and Clevenger,
injured guys.
Yeah, exactly. So you never know like what can happen. I don't know. Certainly there's Martinez there to potentially reclaim his rotation spot too. But Gore, all talent in the world, nice story after being like so bad in the minors for a couple of years. Nice to see him like dominate in the spring and come back and this year, like return to that like top prospect status level. It could be a way just to monitor his innings too. Like I'm looking back at his minor league career. It looks like he's topped out at 100 innings back in 2019. Hasn't really gone much more than that. So he's already at 29 innings this year. So, Yeah.
Yeah, I think the monitoring is a big part of it because in reality, they could have just sent him down.
Yeah.
They could have just like, if we want you to keep starting, we're going to send you down and blah, blah, blah. So I think you're onto something there. It's more like, okay, let's see if these guys stay healthy. We got them here for us, and we can kind of control how things go from here.
Yeah, it's so tough to like project with these like guys in the minors because like I was looking back at like Julio Urias last year, who went from like I don't know 50 some innings to like 180 some right, like
crazy.
It's like it's so tough to like predict those like huge jumps, right? But I guess Dodgers needed him in the rotation last year, so I guess he had no choice. It was just like, well, we're gonna bump him. So it's tough to say like with Gore like how many innings he is projected to pitch. Like if the Padres have like they're gonna cap him out at 100 or 110, 20, but 12s it's going to be tough to hold on to him if he's pitching out of the pen.
And that's my thing. Like I'm going to hold him as long as possible, but it's one of those like you mentioned the list that Phil makes of he's going to start making the list, which was never an option for me before, and that's going to suck. But you got to churn and burn in those 12s, 15s. You can be more patient because he can give you 3 quality innings like that. That'll still pay off somewhere in the end. One other question from Star Platinum: Singer struck out 9 last night. Can you rank these 4? Singer, Cueto, Miley, Steele. Well, Singer got sent back down as he was this 27th man in the doubleheader. Wouldn't be shocked if we see him soon. Like I was a big Singer guy in the preseason, but Singer, Johnny Cueto, Wade Miley, Justin Steele.
I think how he has him. Who was the second one again?
Johnny Cueto, who got the start yesterday. I believe it was yesterday.
I would probably have him as he had him listed. I would put Singer first. I think somebody was having a conversation about Singer on Twitter this morning. I think Phil said like they're expecting him to
come back.
It was Matt Modica posted something about Singer, and
Phil commented.
He had to be sent down because he was a 27th man, and they were talking about they expect him to be back in the rotation at some point this week. So,
he'd be the one for sure.
Yeah, Singer for sure. Like head over heels over the rest of the guys for sure.
Yeah, for me, I'd have Cueto 4th just because I don't think he's sticking around for long. That's just my 2 cents on that one, but we'll have to wait and see overall.
Yep.
But on that note, Ryan, we're going to wrap things up. Great as always. Before we take off, again, plug your closers content, all your written content at RotoWire. What else you got going on?
Yeah, RotoWire.com. The closer grid I frequently update. I just actually updated the closers and waiting list on the site, so that's fresh and up to date. So is the grid. Also, closer encounters should have a new article out today talking about the Boston and Philadelphia bullpens. Just 2 of the bullpens that have really struggled this year. Philadelphia in particular has just been really bad for a long time. Like they just cannot figure out the bullpen there. And I'm not sure if they even want to, but they invested so much money offensively with, Castellanos and Schwarber and, the rotation. RotoWire.com, at Ryan Rufe on Twitter, RUFE. Feel free to hit me up anytime. Happy to answer questions about closers. And look next week for my main event article, which will be out on RotoWire. It would be free, so check out my first quarter recap of my main event team.
Nice. Looking forward to it in a big time. And as always, Ryan, a pleasure having you join me. Chat it up a little bit. Can't wait to do it again sometime.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Bubba, and good luck the rest of the way for you.
You as well. This was Bench with Bubba, episode 473, guys, with Ryan Rufe of RotoWire. Catch y'all later.